Hello and welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Today is the Wednesday episode of this podcast, and we're going to take a look at the weekly intuitive astrology and energies of March 11th through the 18th. Now, this is an important week astrologically because it's when the sun makes its final passages through the late degrees of Pisces. Pisces is the end of the astrological cycle. So we have big themes over the next week of endings, completions, release, forgiveness. It's looking at what we have truly learned at a spiritual level over the last cycle, but that cycle could actually pertain to a number of years for you, not simply the last year. It could be many years, or where you're at a certain place in your healing journey, in your soul growth, in anything that has been taking up your time, energy, and effort. This next week is asking you to tap into peace. Tap into the vibration of peaceful acceptance. Acceptance of yourself. Acceptance of other people. Acceptance of where you're at and how far you have come, even if it's not quite as far as perhaps you anticipated or expected. This is a time of really going easy on yourself, and the energy is soft, and I'm seeing it as a soft orange, a soft pink, a really glowing, warm, white light. It's a softness that asks you to please go easy on yourself right now, because we have been in a very intense cycle. Now, we just had the Virgo full moon on Monday, March 9th, and that was a turning point energy because that full moon in Virgo showed you things at a practical level that you needed to know and understand. And I felt it as this push of energy, like this bursting through of something that helped you understand more about what's unfolding and what's happening in your life. We also had Mercury stationing direct. So earlier this week, there was a shift in the energy, which, by the way, it could have felt kind of funky to you or choppy or weird or off. Like it didn't have a lot of flow. It was just like this incoming sense of change. Change is happening. It's time to make change. And I'm feeling it as the change that you've been trusting. And if you listened to last week's episode, I talked about how Spirit, God, Source, the universe, was asking us to get out of our mind, out of our human mind, and go up to the collective universal mind to understand that there are pieces that are being brought together. A puzzle, if you will, is being reworked or solved. Something has to be reconfigured. And if we try to reconfigure it, we'll actually make a bigger mess. So it's staying out of the kitchen, staying out of what is already tangled up, and not trying to force anything. Now, all of these are very big Pisces themes. These are the themes of trusting, surrender, removing your human will so spiritual will can step in and do its work on your behalf. Pisces season is when we are gifted with getting closer to our higher self, getting closer to spirit, understanding that we don't have to do it all on our own. However, if we don't ask for help, if we don't ask spirit to assist us in whatever we're moving through, we tend to go into a place of victimhood, powerlessness, blame, self-pity, feeling lost, feeling uncertain, and so on and so on. Because these are the energies of Pisces that reveal where your human will, your human ego, your human mind is not in charge. So we have the opportunity to work with other tools, to work with other ways to maneuver and navigate through these times when we can feel quite uncertain, but we aren't alone. So over this next week, what we're being asked to do by Spirit is to be very gentle with ourselves. And I'm getting that image of taking your right hand and putting it on your heart to feel the energy of your heartbeat going into your hand and to feel the steadiness and strength of your hand going into the heart. And it's the symbiotic, energetic relationship of comfort and acceptance. Now, acceptance is when we see something for what it is. We're not fighting it. We're not trying to change it. We're not trying to manipulate it into something else. We're like, this is what it is. I see. It is what it is. And when we can arrive at that place of acceptance, we have accepted what is unfolding at a universal spiritual level. We accept ourselves. We accept a situation. We accept who somebody is. We accept choices. We understand it's not personal. It is not personal. And I say that because the Pisces energy can be very sensitive and intuitive and think that it's something that you could have done or that it's something about you. And it's not. This is where we actually have the potential to tap into the various different spiritual paths that people are on. And there's different spiritual lessons. Of course, there is free will and what somebody is choosing either with their consciousness or their unconsciousness. There is whether or not someone is in the flow or resisting. There are many variables in place. And when we tap into acceptance, we are tapping into universal grace. Universal grace, where there is no struggle. There is no fight. There is no nothing you have to do. You simply understand this is what it is. And that is a big theme over this next week. Many of you probably have been feeling this, you've been understanding it, but if you've been in your mind too much, it's almost like your mind can be too heavy or too burdened trying to put things together. And so instead of being in the mind, you want to go up to the crown chakra and go up to the crown chakra to receive answers and information that is more suitable for what you need right now. And if you practice going higher out of your mind into the crown chakra, you're also going to start to feel a levity and a lightness. You're going to feel a broader connection with all that is, the universal forces. It taps you into the flows of life, transitions and changes, and it allows you to go with it, to move with the river, so to speak. So this is a time of looking at where are you resisting acceptance and where can you invite in more acceptance. So the sun travels through Pisces here over the next week, completing its journey in Pisces and entering Aries on March 19th. This is known as the Aries Equinox. It is the zodiac new year. It's the beginning point of new energies that are downloaded and come in. So know that from now until March 19th, it's okay to wander and drift. It's okay to be in this place of, I don't know what's happening, but I know it's happening for my best and highest good. And the more you can soothe your own mind, the more you can tap into those feelings of trust and acceptance of the bigger journey, the more you're going to feel fortified and powerful. You may have even felt a download of this during the Virgo full moon on March 9th because the sun was conjunct Neptune. And that always brings in a haziness, a lack of understanding, but also a ability to trust spirit, trust the process, trust what you can't see, and to know that when it's time, you will have all the answers. The sun is still making its way away from Neptune. They're only about 3 degrees apart, so the effect is still there. But we're getting some stability over the next week. So now that Mercury has stationed direct at 28 degrees of Aquarius, we're going to have aha moments. There's mental clarity that comes in. There's a sense of understanding something that you didn't see before. I feel like this does help with the acceptance energy. I think it also helps with the new ideas and solutions. Aquarius is very creative. It can tap into quantum fields of energies. It can tap into quantum potentials. And this is where we can even leapfrog ahead, leapfrog over a linear process and see something new and fresh that it's like it pulls us forward is what I'm getting. It's that ability to move ahead into the future timelines, into the new potentials. And there's something I feel that shifted in our willingness to move ahead or our willingness to move forward that's really strong right now too. So Mercury stationing direct in Aquarius brings in exactly what we need to know now in order to take the right steps forward. And over this next week, we're going to see Mercury re-enter Pisces on March 16th. Mercury is in the retrograde area. That means he's opening up to what was previously reviewed. And this energy has the ability to grant you greater trust in what's happening, to help you move forward and navigate based on your intuition like never before. Mercury is not strong in Pisces. It's because the energy gets diluted, it's fuzzy, it's foggy, it can be hard to get the facts straight, it can be hard to know the truth, but you maneuver based on what feels right. And this is an opportunity to trust your body consciousness. This is an opportunity to trust where you find yourself going and your mind isn't driving, where you find yourself moving into something that you might question, what am I doing? Or what is this about? Like you mentally don't understand it, but you're being drawn to it. It's an energetic process instead of a mental process. So Mercury re-enters Pisces on March 16th, where it will stay until the end of the month. Oh, let me clarify that. Mercury stays in the retrograde shadow until the end of the month. So Mercury will clear his shadow March 30th and 31st, and then we'll move through new territory in Pisces. Mercury actually stays in Pisces until April 11th. So we have another month. We're going to have another month of this Mercury in Pisces, and this is where you can trust more of yourself. That's one of the gifts of working with this energy, and that's one of the ways that you can open up to more of your energetic capabilities. Our intuition can be advanced with Mercury in Pisces. And again, you want to go up into your crown chakra and listen. Listen for answers. Listen for information. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to what comes through that is out of the blue or just feels like it's growing in its strength. These are all the things we can actively develop with Mercury in Pisces. And it's how you're going to be able to become more intuitive in ways that perhaps you weren't able to open up to before. But it does take practice, and it does take a willingness to get out of the mind, because of course we use our mind to solve things, figure it out, read information, etc., just to be in our world, to be in our lives. But this is an opportunity to connect with spirit and to develop more of your intuitive capabilities that were even shut down. Shut down often in childhood is when it happens, based out of a fear, based out of conditioning, social programming, your culture, parents. Any number of variables can shut down the development of our intuition. But when you're ready and you simply say, I'm ready to open up, I'm ready to trust more of the messages, and you demonstrate that that's your intention, it works. And that's another great way to use this next month with Mercury returning to Pisces. What's really lovely in this week is that the Capricorn planets are beautifully connecting with the planets in Pisces at this time. And we have a number of connections that are unfolding as the sun continues moving through these late degrees of Pisces. So at this time, on March 11th, we have the sun in Pisces receiving a sextile from Jupiter in Capricorn at 21 degrees. This is often an abundant energy, a sense of confidence, a sense of trust. Jupiter in Capricorn brings in the resources and support you need for next steps. It shows you the connection points and what to do, where to go. It can also be an inspiring energy where you understand what you want next, what that next goal is, and it can also fortify what you're moving through and give you that sense of trust and a sense of, I can do this. So this is a lovely energy to experience. And then coming up behind Jupiter, we have Mars moving through Capricorn. Mars is going to make a sextile to Neptune and Pisces at 18 degrees on March 14th. Now, Mars is how we go for what we want. It helps us take care of our life, how we manage ourselves, how we move through our days. It's our physical energy. Mars is our desire and our ambition. And when Mars makes this beneficial sextile to Neptune and Pisces, he brings the energy to the dream. He brings the desire to that next vision. And you could feel a rising desire to take action on something you've been sitting with. It's like it could finally connect. And in fact, I want to highlight March 14th as an important day, because not only does this Mars in Capricorn sextile Neptune and Pisces, but the Sun in Pisces sextiles Pluto in Capricorn at 24 degrees. So we have this really nice connection between Capricorn and Pisces energies that are giving us a powerful burst of energy. It's the day to say yes. It's the day to take steps forward. It's the day to move something ahead. This can be a very productive time. It can be building the last few days of this week, and it could be like you understand what is right for you at this time. When the Sun sextiles Pluto, that is a feeling of power. That is a feeling of understanding how you've been changing and growing. And there can also be a sense of confidence in what you need to do next. So this is a good energy here, especially now with all planets direct. All planets are direct, and we are moving ahead based on what we've realized, what we've understood, and also based on what we can't deny, what we can't overlook, what we can't, it's like you can't turn away from something. Something has come forward that you're meant to know and see. And now you're going to have the opportunity over this next week to make the powerful choices that support your path and support perhaps anything that you were uncertain about. You can have greater certainty at this time. Now, March 16th is when Mars in Capricorn is going to trigger that January 10th Cancer lunar eclipse. That's because Mars in Capricorn is going to get to 20 degrees. And that Cancer lunar eclipse was at 20 degrees of Cancer, right? The moon was at 20 degrees of Cancer, but the Sun and Mercury were conjunct at 20 degrees of Capricorn. So here comes Mars to that same point in your natal astrology chart and is a trigger, an activator. Whatever's been dormant comes up. So 2 months after that January 10th eclipse, you're ready to take action on what you've realized, what you've learned, what has changed. Because if there have been big changes in your world, and we all experience these energies differently, of course, if there's been something that you've been working through over the past 2 months, this March 16th trigger is very action-oriented. And it's where the strength of Mars in Capricorn shows up, takes control, has a plan, has a strategy, and is ready to do what needs to be done. So there's an activation energy here, and it's always good to have a heads up on this. Whenever you follow the transits of Mars, you see how something that was under the surface or just sitting there then comes alive. Similar to a volcano that's been dormant, it's activated. So we always watch transiting Mars for activation points and trigger points, and it helps us get out of our head and into real world actions and to move something forward. So hold the intention that whatever transpired for you back in January, now is the universal timing for it to move ahead. This is when you have greater clarity about what that looks like or what that needs to be. And again, look for what comes up in your body, because Mars is about our physical self, and you could feel that you need to move. It could simply be exercise. It could be doing something physical to move the energy, to get it out. But it could also be the physicality of your body consciousness coming through with something you can't deny or ignore. And I say that because sometimes with the strong Pisces energies, we don't want to look at reality, or we don't want to see something for what it is. But there's a strong signature right now that you're already aware of something. Maybe it's been trickling through or happening slowly or coming together, piece by piece. There's something you're already aware of that you understand about who you are at this time that is part of your emerging consciousness, part of your new sense of self that's coming up and out. This can be your next steps in work. This could be something you've always wanted to do professionally. This could be moving something forward in your life. It's something where the Capricorn areas of our life are now really moving. We've been undergoing big transformation and big change. We've had to deal with perhaps some intensity or some energy work. There can be any number of things that come up with all these planets in Capricorn. But the Mars trigger is saying, now we go forward. Now we take action and trust yourself, trust your body, and trust what is coming up for you that is calling to you, a calling forward. It's sort of like hearing something off in the distance, and you're just taking steps that can feel like blind faith, and you're just putting one foot in front of the other, and that's all you can do because you can't see any further down the path, but you hear something calling to you that you can't deny or ignore. And that's how this next week in March is showing up, is that the movement is here. It's time for actions. It's time for choices, but you might not know what it all looks like. You might not have all of the picture or image showing up, but you know that you must move forward into this next step, this next adventure, this next chapter. You could even feel blindfolded. You could feel like you're walking down a path and you're simply trusting the strength of your feet, which is interesting since Pisces rules the feet. So we're meant to trust that steadiness of our steps. Another big theme of completion that we have over the next week is how Saturn in Capricorn is now at 29 degrees. Every 29 degree point of each astrological sign is a completion degree. It's also known as a critical degree, and it's basically the final test. It's basically looking at, okay, Saturn has been traveling through Capricorn now for over 2 years, and at this 29 degree point, what have you mastered? What have you come to understand about the Capricorn areas of your life as they relate to the natal house that Capricorn is in your chart? So you would look at where Saturn has been traveling through your natal astrology chart. Whichever house it's been moving through is the environment of life that Saturn has been testing, developing, challenging, and helping you gain more strength in. And as Saturn is now at this 29 degree point, it is looking at what is complete for you. And this can be at a karmic level, this can be professionally, this can be an understanding of your self-identity or relationships or what you need or what matters to you at this point in your life, what you have learned, what you have obtained, what you have achieved. And we're looking at what needs to be released as the Sun in Pisces will connect with Saturn in Capricorn at 29 degrees on March 18th and 19th. So there's a huge karmic completion, soul mastery, and I feel it as a graduation, actually. It's a graduation energy as the Sun in Pisces sextiles this point of Saturn in Capricorn. It feels like an acknowledgement of how far you've come, and it's not over because Saturn will be retrograde and return to the 26 to 29 degrees of Capricorn in the second half of this year. So there's something that you're going to review. Whatever is happening for you, let's say from all of February into this first half of March, whatever themes, areas of life, development, life changes, growth you've been moving through over the past month and a half, you're going to revisit in the second half of 2020. And that's because of how Saturn will come back into Capricorn, retrograde back to 25 degrees, and hit on the same territory that it's just covered in February and March. So this is a heads up. This is for planning purposes. It's also for expectations that chances are whatever you've been moving through, it's not done. It's still going to be worked out or massaged. It's still going to come back around for you to understand and learn from. This is where you're going to need to continue to show up and be mature, responsible, aware of consequences, aware of your choices. This is where we are really taking ownership of our life. So know that whatever big areas have been unfolding for you in February and March, it is going to come back around, and then it will finally be complete. But have the awareness of what you have learned and have the understanding of how to make the conscious choices so that in the second half of the year, when Saturn is at these degree points again, you don't have to carry a heavy burden or feel as challenged or feel even like this weighed down, because it could feel like there's been a lot on your plate, a lot to take care of, a lot to do. It could feel like life has been heavy at times. I feel like we're getting support right now, this week, to let go of what is not ours to carry, to let go of where you don't have power or choices over what other people do. In other words, the more that you can let go and accept what is this week, the easier it's going to be in your world when Saturn returns to Capricorn later on in 2020. And so understand too that we're moving through these layers of energies that take time. That's also the domain of Saturn. The time it takes to work through something, the time it takes to move through a process. This can also relate to any types of commitments, legal responsibilities, anything where you have to tend to life commitments. This requires the discipline and the ability to pace yourself. So I feel like what we're energetically doing this week is releasing false expectations of ourselves that have only created perhaps heaviness or stress. And to remember that we travel with Spirit, God, Source, the universe, and that if you can tap into that vibration, it will help you move through these lessons or themes. And I'm also feeling like there is going to be a sense of something being energetically complete, even if you have to keep taking care of it. Sort of like you've understood what you've learned. You've come through a lesson. You've understood the healing or the challenges or the things that were being shown to you. Almost like the emotional intensity or the karmic weight has been something you've worked through. And then when it comes back around, it can be easier to be like, okay, right, just take care of this, go through the motions, 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z. And then you don't have the emotional intensity, if you will. You don't have the heaviness. So I'm just feeling like we have some things in front of us that we need to take care of over the next week. And it's how we're energetically working with these soul contracts, these areas of growth, the soul healing. And the more that you can take care of yourself right now, accept what is, just tend to what you need to do, the easier it's going to be for you to glide through whatever remains and to tap into universal grace. I'm also feeling this strong energy of no going back. And that's been a theme, certainly for the first few months of 2020. But there's also a theme that you have graduated and moved through some important areas of growth. And I was going to say serious, because it does have a seriousness to it. It does have a sense of how it's formed you and shaped you, how it's been a part of your life, how it's formed your life. But now I feel like The transition is to be able to let some things go, to free up your own energy. It's sort of like if you're holding too many things in your hand, you don't have the capability to hold anything new. So let go of what you can let go of, accept what is, and allow yourself some more room to hold what's coming through or what's going to come through. I feel like there are going to be even some little treasures or gifts or something that shows up that's very affirming of this process and this time. And this does tend to happen when we're on the right path. When things are manifesting and revealing themselves, we tend to get validations and little glimmers of messages and hope that this is the right thing, you're on the right path, keep going, keep trusting. And, with all planets direct right now, I feel that we have this forward moving support. We have the ability to do what we need to do, even if it's one step at a time. Now, the new energies are going to be coming in on the Aries Equinox, which again is on March 19th. And for those who want to know the exact day and time, it'll be at 11:49 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it could be March 19th or March 20th for you, depending on where you are on the planet. And this is the incoming energy. This is the fresh start, the new downloads, the sense of inspiration and motivation. This is where we begin something and we have more of a push to move forward. So if you feel like you've been floating, if you feel like you've just been floating on the ocean and there hasn't been anything moving you forward, it's sort of like being on the ocean and there's no wind to catch or move the sails. There is going to be a shift in that next week. So don't think that you have to get something up and moving if you really don't have the energy for it, but it does depend on what works for you and trusting yourself. A few more things to note here over the next week is that we will still see Venus traveling through Taurus, which is one of her favorite astrological signs. She is in her home turf, her home energy. And this is where we are being given the opportunity to strengthen our self-love, to strengthen how we feel valued and respected. And over the next number of weeks, Venus in Taurus is going to make supportive connections to the planets in Capricorn. So this is going to really help with what we know is true for us in terms of loving and accepting who we are. This can be great for relationship decisions or choices, supportive relationship actions. This can help with financial decisions, money investments, things that you're contemplating. You'd want to see when this Venus connects with the outer planets, specifically when Venus makes a trine to Jupiter and to Pluto later on in March. Now, if you're in my March 2020 Soul Growth Astrology webinar, you know that I go through all of these dates for you. We look at the whole month of March and make sure that you understand what's happening in your own chart. This is an intermediate level webinar to help people learn their astrological chart, to learn your transits. And you can still get it for $11 if you want to check out the second half of March, which is so dynamic. And you use coupon code Pisces when you purchase the webinar, and that's how you get it for $11. It does include the Aries Equinox and the March Aries New Moon chart as well. So I'm doing these monthly webinars because I want you to see what's happening in your life and in your chart and help you plan accordingly, understand what's coming up, and then, of course, make the best possible choices and decisions for your path. So know that we are moving through a big month. March brings us a lot of changes in the second half of the month as we move through Aries season. And this is when the planets, the sun in Aries specifically, forces some things for us. We have strong Mars energy, strong Pluto, strong Jupiter. It's sort of like you can't deny who you've become and you can't deny what you want or where you're going. And I feel it as a force of energy from the soul. That soul energy that's bigger than us. It's sort of like that sense of, I have to do something, right? I have to follow this calling. I have to follow this path. I have to make this decision. And you might not even understand it. It's just the energy is so strong that you know it's the right thing to do. And that's really what the second half of March is all about, is how we cannot deny how far we've come. It is time to be in alignment with the strength of our self at this time. And it's when you are stepping up and stepping out into yourself at an expanded level. Like I see the aura getting bigger. And that's because the force of the soul's energy is coming through during this equinox, and it expands the aura out. So if the aura was 3 feet, then it's 4 feet. It feels like there's an expansion. And it's interesting because part of that aura expansion is that it will push away what doesn't resonate. It will push out of your life what isn't right for you anymore. It will push away what is not of like vibration or similar frequency. So understand that's part of the energetics right now, that as we grow and expand and we continue on the awakening ascension journey, that things have to leave. Like they just don't fit anymore. They don't have space. And know that it's okay to be in acceptance of this. It's not like something's wrong. Something's not wrong. It's not bad. It's not negative. So pay attention to any judgments or assessments that come up. It's simply a process of growth. And when you're committed to your own soul growth, and when you're committed to following what is right for you, some of those changes can actually happen quite effortlessly and with more grace. And it helps if you are not only in that place of acceptance, but in the neutrality, a neutrality zone that you know it's happening for your best and highest good, as well as for the best and highest good of everyone involved. So if you're thinking of making a job change, for example, something could become so uncomfortable right now that it's so clear to you, you have to make the change. It's something that you can't deny, okay? So that energy is going to continue to grow throughout March. And as always, we will continue to talk about it. Now, on Monday's show, I'm going to talk to you about the Jupiter conjunct Pluto in Capricorn. That's a transit that will be happening 3 times throughout 2020. And I want to talk more about what that looks like because of how Pluto is our soul's growth and our soul's evolution. And then Jupiter brings in the energies of support. So it's quite dynamic, and I'm excited to talk to you about that on Monday's episode. So I think that's all I have to say for today. I feel like there is a lot happening that is about acceptance and closure and completion and trust. And I know I've said that already in this show, so I don't want to keep repeating myself. But just know that, again, the completions are strong right now. The transitions are strong. The changes are strong. And everything is in divine order. Everything is in divine order. And when you can tap into that place in yourself that absolutely knows that absolutely trusts that, it really opens you up to more of the joy in the journey. So thank you so much for listening and connecting. You can find out more about me at mollymccord.online. That's where I have all of the astrological classes that are available. If you want to learn more about astrology, learn about your chart, you can learn about transits. I'm currently offering that at 50% off if you want to understand what's happening in your chart through the transiting planets. Information below this podcast. And also check out consciouscoolchic.com, which is where you can see the 10 books I've written, as well as spiritual teachings, consciousness topics, and various other things that I hope support your own soul growth at this time. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm wishing you a beautiful journey as we move through this week in March, and I'll see you back here on Monday. Take good care, and I'll see you soon.